Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, and Claire Ellicott, Acting Deputy Political Editor of the Mail on Sunday. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on those front pages. The Eye reports that Rishi Sunak could be set to make far-reaching spending cuts next month after ripping up every one of his predecessor Liz Truss's economic plans. The Guardian, with the fracking ban reinstated and doubts again about the pension triple lock, the paper says that Truss's legacy has been rejected. The Express asks, do you really want to scrap the pension triple lock again? According to the Daily Telegraph, tax rises could again be on the cards. The Financial Times says the 3-week delay to next Monday's fiscal statement will give the Chancellor breathing space to work out how best to balance the books. The Times reports that major reforms and improvements to education are also on the new Prime Minister's agenda. The Daily Mail leads with news of the soaring costs of dealing with the country's growing migrant crisis. Don't be gay at the World Cup is the lead in the Metro. Remarks by the Foreign Secretary about the tournament in Qatar, which have angered LGBTQ football fans. The Daily Star leads with fears for the survival of Britain's pigeons as more and more of them begin to act like zombies. And finally, The Sun has a story about Harry Styles and his recent film co-star Florence Pugh. And a reminder, by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch along with us. Well, as I said, we're joined tonight by Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, and Claire Ellicott, Acting Deputy Political Editor of the Mail on Sunday. Kevin, Claire, good evening to you. Thank you very much for being with us. All right, let's start off with the Daily Telegraph. And Claire, Telegraph reporting that that delay of a few weeks by the Chancellor could actually save £15 billion, not an insignificant amount of money.
Well, no, it'll be fantastic news for Rishi Sunak. And they're saying the Resolution Foundation have a report out saying that the delay might mean 10 to 15 billion pounds are saved. And that means that Rishi Sunak won't have to make those cuts to spending or use tax rises to increase that money. So that'll be fantastic news. I think the budget shortfall is estimated at around £35 billion, and that is a frightening amount of money for a new Prime Minister to have to save in some way. And he's going to face some very difficult choices, even if that money is saved, and how exactly he implements that.
And Kevin, what do you make of this delay? I mean, it's a kind of nifty economics, isn't it, that just by putting off a couple of weeks, you can save all that money?
Yeah, if that actually works out, that would be fantastic, a 2.5-week delay. Now, of course, he is First Lord of the Treasury and a former Chancellor, so he will really want to get his head around the figures. In some ways, Jeremy Hunt, you really want to be the Chancellor of a former Chancellor? I suspect not, but the Telegraph say he's still looking at possible tax rises and spending cuts, which really he spoke in Downing Street yesterday of difficult decisions. Well, his decisions that'll be difficult for other people. So he's very much a fiscal conservative. He's very orthodox, and it could be incredibly painful. And we saw today that he in Downing Street wouldn't commit to raising pensions by the triple lock of about 10% or benefits by the same rate, and there could be real terms cuts in both, which I think would reap him not a political dividend, but a political whirlwind. He would get an incredible backlash if he does that.
Yeah, in answer to both of those things, it was just wait for this plan, which, as you understand now, is coming on the 17th of November. Let's move on to The Guardian now, and just another example of the way that those plans laid by Liz Truss, best laid plans by Liz Truss, have been laid to waste by the new PM. Kevin?
Yeah, what a shambles. There we are. Yeah, Conservative Manifesto 2019. No fracking. Liz Truss, in a way, brought herself down by trying to bring back fracking, whipping her MPs to vote against a Labour motion maintaining the ban, all that, the accusations of people being manhandled, strong-armed. The following day, she was gone. Now Rishi Sunak it's back to the future and no fracking. What a mess, what a shambles. he's got to restore order in some way if the Conservatives are going to have any chance at the next election and regain a smidgen of reputation for being sort of coherent and stable. But it's still a mess. It's a sign of what a deep hole he is in. But by doing this, he saved lots of his own MPs rebelling because nobody wants fracking in their constituencies.
I mean, Claire, do you see it as shambolic as Kevin puts it? I mean, Kevin mentioned there, it's back to the 2019 manifesto, isn't it?
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, it was one of the first things Rishi Sunak did to tear up the legacy of Liz Truss. Fracking was one of the key things that she backed, and her business secretary Jacob Rees-Mogg, was his sort of pet project, and it was wildly unpopular among her backbenchers. So Rishi Sunak kind of coming in now and saying that it won't happen, it's probably quite a wise decision for him. There will still be issues and how exactly energy is then sourced, but fracking, I think, was definitely not one that was going to stick around.
And Claire, let's stay with you now. Bring up the front page of the Times, and this is it. 2 days into the job, Rishi Sunak seems to be trying to get on the front foot here. Looking at education, just tell us what this headline's about. Better education can be our silver bullet. Sunak is quoted as saying.
Yeah, so this is this idea that he's going to introduce some kind of British baccalaureate and go back to a kind of real sort of like maths, English, keep everything really simple and make sure that, Britain is equipped with the skills it needs. Obviously, one of the main things holding back Britain's growth is that we don't have enough skilled workers. And Rishi Sunak has pledged for education at the centre of his government and to make that a key pledge. So that it's clearly going to be one of his priorities in Downing Street.
And Kevin, what do you make of this idea then as a priority for Rishi Sunak, looking at the education piece? Of course, it's a piece that we'd think that the Labour Party would definitely want to campaign on going into an election.
Yeah, I think every political party, every government, every minister, every MP have always said education is a priority. Of course, it was just at the weekend that education leaders said there's a 2 billion black hole in schools in England. It was the equivalent of having to sack 5 teachers in every secondary school, and spending per pupil is below the level it was in 2010 when the Conservatives first came into power at the time in the Condem coalition with the Liberal Democrats. But Sunak, it was backed by the Times. They've had an education commission, speaking to lots of people, exploring options and where you can go forward. And I think he's trying to curry favour with that paper, I think, here. But what are the practical proposals he will come up with? Because it is right, as everybody else is, that prosperity to a large degree will depend on having a very highly trained, motivated, educated workforce in Britain. We're not going to be able to beat any country in a race to the bottom in pay and standards, which sometimes I think he's also rather attracted to, certainly in terms of deregulation. But you want to see what he's going to do. Is he going to fund it? Because, as I say, 2 billion gap at the weekend.
Just staying on the education piece, if we can, for a minute, Kevin, as well. I mean, former Education Secretary David Blunkett at the Labour Party was on the radio the other day with exactly this, that we need to reinvest in our education. So it will be an interesting sort of battleground, do you think, going into the election? Because, as you rightly say, all politicians, all of every political stripe definitely want to see education standards improved. Yeah,
and he himself had a very good education. His parents paid for it. He had it, but you want everybody to be educated well. And there's something like is it a quarter or a fifth of kids now leave school really without hitting the required grade. So yeah, it will be a battleground, and it should be a battleground. Because we need a better educated country, partly as a workforce, but we will also be happier, more active citizens. But again, I'd like to see what he will say. Now, the Times like it. He's backing their campaign, but you've got to see the colour of his money and the words of his commitments.
Yeah, and we'll certainly see that. Maybe on the 17th of November, unless they put it back again. All right, let's move on to the front page of the Metro now, if we can, Claire. The picture story. We'll come on to the story there about the World Cup later, but the picture story here, this is all about how the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, did at the dispatch box today. I mean, how would you score him, Claire?
Well, it's his first PMQs, and his backbenchers are rapturous. But what was quite nice to see at PMQs today was actually two leaders who have their parties united behind them. It was so rare to see such a sort of electrifying atmosphere at PMQs. And we're sort of used to ashen faces when Liz Truss delivered her mini budget and towards the end of Boris Johnson's regime. And also when Labour, the Labour backbenchers behind Corbyn never looked that happy. So it's quite nice today to see everyone really up in arms about everything. Rishi Sunak was fluent, he was quick, he was fast, he was clever, and Keir Starmer had quite a few good jibes, but I don't think he landed any proper blows. I think Sunak had all his backbenchers behind him cheering for him. It was a very good atmosphere today.
Kevin?
No, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, was a big blow by Keir Starmer, asking why she was reappointed 6 days after being sacked by Liz Truss for a security breach, and had any senior civil servants officials warned against it. And he avoided answering that question, did the Prime Minister, because there have been warnings. And tonight, Jake Berry, the chair of the Conservative Party at the time, said there were multiple breaches of the ministerial code involving cyber security by Suella Braverman, and she only owned up after she was confronted by it. Now, I think it's a very bad appointment by the Prime Minister, and he'll come to regret that. So I thought a blow was landed there. I think another blow was landed on non-doms. You could raise 3.2 billion if you ended the non-dom status of people, including Rishi Sunak's wife, although he didn't say that specifically, said Starmer. So I thought Starmer won the bout. He's up for the fight. And I think Sunak, he was competent, and he certainly had his MPs on his side, but he's going to be on the back foot now. And if he's going to break links with benefits and with pensions, and you're going to be cutting public services, those PMQ sessions could get pretty tough for him.
OK, Kevin, Claire, plenty more to come from both of you after the break. Thank you very much for that. Don't go anywhere, because I'll be back with you in a little while. Now, Fire Up the Fiesta will bring you more on the Ford Motor Company's decision to scrap their iconic little car. Hello and welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me now. Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, and Claire Ellicott, Acting Deputy Political Editor of the Mail on Sunday. Kevin, Claire, thanks again for staying with us through the break. Let's go for the front page of the Daily Mail now. We'll start with you, Claire, your sister paper, cousin paper, however you want to describe it. And this is about the headline there, Rishi's migrant crisis headache. Tell us the reporting on this.
Well, this is one of the bigger problems in Rishi Sunak's inbox, and there's the Commons. The Commons Committee today has met. The Home Affairs Committee has met and has declared the asylum system overwhelmed by the number of small boats coming into the country. And this report is, it's going to be troubling for Rishi Sunak. And one of the big things in polling is often that, people are really concerned about the small boats crisis and the number of migrants coming to the UK. And it's going to be a huge headache for him. Suella Braverman, he's reappointed her the Home Secretary, so it will be in her inbox to deal with. And, the government has been beset by problems with this. They've been unable to kind of sort the problem out. And, attempted to send flights back to Rwanda, but that's not happened. That's been kind of set back by loads of court problems. And so it's just one of those things that's not going to be going away anytime soon. I mean,
you say court problems. Illegality, as the court described it, right, Kevin? I mean, it's the answer to send them to Rwanda. And obviously with Suella Braverman, if she stays in post, that will be her solution to this. Yeah,
well, she dreams of it, doesn't she? She may never do it. It's incredibly expensive, and it may be an unworkable policy. But if we discovered today 12,000 have come from Albania, you're not going to send them to Rwanda. If you're going to send them anyway. You'd send them back to Albania. So in some ways, Rwanda is a distraction. It might incite some people to make it appear the government's doing something about it, but it's not really tackling the problem. But Border Force said of those Albanians, which was estimated between 1% and 2% of the Albanian population aged between 20 and 40, they stay for 6 to 12 months, work illegally, and then they go home. So they are probably correcting the policy themselves rather than the government doing it. The truth is there is no easy answer, and I think any politicians who pretend that there are deceiving the public.
OK, let's move on to the front page of the Metro, the story that I said we're going to bring up about the World Cup in Qatar. The headline there, I mean, just incredible. Don't be gay at World Cup, Kevin. Just the very fact that that is a headline in quotation marks is just remarkable to me. I mean, what do you make of what's happened here?
Yeah, well, James cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, James not very cleverly say gay people going to Qatar should have to flex and compromise. Downing Street since shot him down. Let you go to the World Cup, you're gay, you should be able to behave as you behave every football match you go to. And I think he got this completely wrong, tin-eared, tone deaf. That is just not good. I've been to Qatar and I know there are risks, but if they're hosting the World Cup, they've got to allow all football fans, whatever their sexuality, to go and watch a game the way they want to.
Yeah. And Claire, just a thought from you on that, and then we'll move on to our final paper quickly if you can.
Well, I think that James cleverly obviously said something ridiculous. There's no way that the government should be telling any football fans how to behave in Qatar. Gay football fans, they should be able to be themselves. The number 10 slapped him down. It was an absolute error.
OK. All right, the final story then. This is about the Ford's decision to get rid of the Fiesta. Kevin, what was your first car?
Oh, God, the first I bought was a Mini Metro back in the day. And I thought of getting a Ford Fiesta, but the Metro was cheaper. It was when Fiestas were made in Dagenham, but I went for a West Midlands a Metro. But, incredibly durable, those cars. 46 years they've been making the Fiesta.
We haven't got loads of time, Claire. Your first car?
I think it was a Hyundai Atos, actually, and I think it broke down about 2 months later, but I then had a VW Polo, which has served me well for many years.
Yeah, well, we'll find out more about those cars in a short while. Claire, Kevin, appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right.